Vice Chancellor of the University of Cambridge, Professor Sir Boris. I'm choosing the easier route to call you Sir Boris and not struggle with the pronunciation. Other distinguished members of the delegation from the University of Cambridge, the very scholarly Honorable Mr. Justice Swatantra Kumar, who heads the National Green Tribunal and who's always been an evangelist for better environment, green laws. The very distinguished Justice Manmohan Singh, Justice Sunita Gupta ji, other distinguished judges, the Chief Vigilance Commissioner, Mr. K.V. Chaudhary, Mrs. Pratibha Singh, the person because of whom we are all here, and to recognize and acknowledge the good work that she has initiated. The man behind the successful Pratibha, Maninder Singh, the Additional Solicitor General, Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. Venkata Rao, Dr. Nikhil Tandon. I see a number of friends here, Rajat, Virender and Kumi Kapoor. Virender has to be at the last row, very rightly so.
He's right there.
We have Navika, Nalin. I see a lot of friends here, and that's the family spirit where all friends get together. And I think I would have much rather come only as a member of your family here, Pratibha ji, than as the guest of honor. Dipshika, who spoke very well about her experiences in Cambridge, parents of Ashwini, and all the distinguished trustees, lawyers, well-wishers of the Sardar Manmohan Singh Charitable Trust, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, my congratulations to Ashwini Vedalingam. She has been a top-ranking law graduate from your school, sir, the National Law School of India University in Bengaluru. And as Nikhil mentioned, and as I'm using the girl child because if after 3 successful years of girls winning this scholarship, I suspect you better make it a girls' scholarship.
Now, all my colleagues will say no to that, the male colleagues.
But very rightfully so. I think it's very, very well deserving and very appropriate that Pratibha ji has chosen to recognize the talent that we have amongst our budding girl lawyers. More so because when I was preparing to come here, a very disturbing statistic saw me in the eye. The fact that since 1950, we have had only 6 out of 229 distinguished judges of the Supreme Court who were lady judges. 6 out of 229. In fact, even in the high courts, we've only had about 62 women judges compared to 611 lady judges. 65 years or so. And I think it's very appropriate that we have such wonderful and philanthropic senior advocates like Pratibha ji who have chosen to recognize and encourage young lawyers to get the opportunity of a good education, particularly in the University of Cambridge, which has been her alma mater, in fact, 25 years ago. It's the Silver Jubilee. 91 you went there.
91 and 90, yeah.
So 91 is exactly 25 years back, and it's about this month when you might have gone to join the fall term in Cambridge. Incidentally, my daughter was admitted at your sister institution, Oxford, in the St. John's College. And to read history, and she's still very unhappy with my wife and me for having made her go to Harvard and not join Oxford. She did prefer Oxford, I must acknowledge that. But it's great to see that Pratibha ji, after getting her education in Cambridge, has been one of the finest lawyers which India has produced, particularly in the intellectual property world. I recall that Justice Sikri was recognized in 2007 as one of the most influential persons in the intellectual property world by the Managing Intellectual Property Association. And I wouldn't be surprised if Pratibha sir follows in your footsteps. And her influence, I do understand, might not be liked by a number of large multinationals and particularly the pharmaceutical companies, particularly after her very successful, the decision she won in the Novartis case, which actually was a path-breaking judgment which helped Indian medicines becoming far more affordable for the poor of India. And I think it's a recognition that Pratibha ji, you will always be remembered for years and years to come. In fact, scholarships play a very, very important role in furthering quality education. If one was to look at the leaders which India has produced, be it the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, be it Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the father of the Indian Constitution, and for that matter, the former Prime Minister of India and someone who has mentored me and I look up to as one of the finest statesmen that India has produced, Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, all of them benefited from scholarships during their student days and were able to make a mark in life, make a significant contribution to the making of modern India. And it's a subject very dear also to the current Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi's heart, when he talks about Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. And when we see in so many interactions, he brings out the fact that we will have to make scholarships and we will have to make funds available for children in India so that they can benefit from higher education, better education, irrespective of their ability to pay, but focused more on the merit of the student. In fact, Harvard admits students purely on merit. It's a need-blind admission. It's only after the admission is done that they assess your capacity to pay. And every student who gets admitted will be funded by the university to whatever extent their shortfall is, irrespective of the requirement. It could be 100% scholarship, it could be 50%, depending on your family circumstances. And my son tells me probably 80 or 90% of the students at Harvard. Portia, in her speech on the quality of mercy is not strained, where she had mentioned about the lack of women in higher judiciary. So even when we look into literature, and I was trying to see parallels in literature about what has been spoken about women in higher judiciary, it seems that historically and across the world, this has been the situation. And as we are often advised by my Prime Minister, that India should lead and not follow the world. I do hope this will be an area where India will lead and not follow the world. We will lead from the front and come up with outstanding jurists, outstanding lawyers, and outstanding people in higher judiciary in the years to come, and set this historic imbalance right. About returning to India, I have two very personal anecdotes in my family, which I just remembered sitting over here, which I would like to share with you, because in some sense it also shows us how important this little small aspect of returning back to India is. The other day somebody was telling me that almost 70 or 80% of all the graduates who come out of our IITs and IIMs are all abroad. They probably all went to study for further education internationally, but for whatever reason, maybe lack of opportunity at some time or the other, they chose to continue to work abroad, which is also fine by me. They serve India in direct and indirect ways, even while they work abroad. I have no complaints about that. But I remember after my brother completed his engineering from IIT Kanpur and was proceeding to, again, Cambridge, but the wrong one from to MIT to pursue his master's. Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee was then the foreign minister. It was in 1978. And when Pradeep went to take Atalji's blessings, Atalji said, "Nahi, tumhe visa nahi milega. Main rok dunga, tumhe jana nahi hai." I will not get you a visa. I'll make sure you don't get a visa. He was the foreign minister. Because I don't want you to go abroad. You stay here and serve the country. Of course, Pradeep did go. He pursued his studies. He worked there for a few years, but he came back to India to serve the motherland, deeply rooted as he was in the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh school of thinking, and deeply committed that he was to come back to India. And as I was sitting here, I recalled my wife and I met Prime Minister Narendra Modi at somebody's wedding function only about a year ago, probably, or 9 months ago. And Seema mentioned to Narendra Bhai that Dhruv, my son, would be graduating next year. He just graduated 3 months ago. And his immediate comment was, usko वापस आके देश की सेवा करनी है. Two parallels, two children of colleagues of Prime Minister. My father was Atalji's colleague all through the Jan Sangh and Janata Party and BJP days. I've had the good fortune to work with Prime Minister Modi, and both Prime Ministers telling the children to come back and serve India in some sense resonates very closely with me. And thank you, Pratibha ji, for focusing on that aspect when you're deciding on your scholarship. And I do hope, Dipshika, you, Ashwini, you, all of you will seriously look at coming back to India, serving the motherland and going on to be outstanding lawyers, jurists, judges, whatever your profession takes you up to do. They say law is a noble profession. It's a profession that all of us wish never touches our lives, and we don't have to get into any spat where we need lawyers. But as Aristotle said, at his best, man is the noblest of all animals. Separated from law and justice, he is the worst. And in that sense, I think law touches all our lives very closely. It touches our lives to help us be good citizens. It's the difference between a civilized society and the jungle. Lawyers, after all, are the first line of defense. When some injustice is done to any of us, our national freedom movement was led from the front by distinguished lawyers, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, Rajendra Prasad, Lokmanya Tilak. And therefore, in that sense also, it truly is a noble profession, a profession which has done this nation proud, and a profession which has also brought us my own mentor in public life, Arun Jaitley ji. And therefore, I respect this profession very deeply. My own work, my own study of law has helped me has played a very extremely important role in my own profession, whether when I ran an industry, whether when I was an investment banker, and today as a minister. Particularly, I remember the day on 24th of August when the Honorable Supreme Court was pleased to announce the allotment of all the coal mines, 204 coal mines, as illegal and arbitrary. I was at a lunch with Arunji at that time, and I got the message that this has happened, and I was flabbergasted. I didn't know how to react. So as soon as the lunch got over, I quickly walked up to him and said, "What do I do now? The press is all going to catch me and ask me my comments." And of course, Arunji, is being as sane and wise as he was, said, "Don't comment anything till you've gone back to your office, studied the judgment, read the files, what has actually gone wrong, and only after that you make your comments." So in some sense, my own studies of law have helped me do my job. I hope I'm able to do my job better and in the legal way in the years to come. But in conclusion, I'd just like to mention one aspect about the law, which we are trying to work on and on which I would seek the blessings of the honorable courts and all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen here. Cicero, possibly the most famous lawyer in ancient Rome, had mentioned, the more the laws, the less the justice. And I think in some sense we in India are now coming to terms with that type of a situation. In fact, I remember at one point of time I'd asked my office to try and study how many laws there are in India. We failed to come to a number. I don't know if there is any compilation of all the laws of India. May make an interesting study for maybe Navika's son, who likes to do a lot of research and comes out with the books at this tender young age. But maybe it would be 25,000 laws. With 29 states, I'm just making hazarding a guess. And successive governments have repealed laws. I believe in the last 64 years, before 2014, 1,301 outdated laws have been removed from the statute. We have started work on that. We have weeded out about 1,159 laws in our first 2 years in office. Prime Minister Modi is committed to and has instructed all of us to study all these laws to make sure that we can set this situation right. And going forward, I do hope we can play a role to improve governance and reduce the web of complexity of laws in India. Thank you very much, Pratibha ji, for giving me this opportunity, and once again, congratulations, Ashwini. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, for sharing your experiences. They were truly inspiring. Our chief guest for today is Honourable Justice Sikri, Judge, Supreme Court of India. Justice Sikri was a merit list holder in his secondary school education. He did his BCom honours from Sri Ram College of Commerce and LL.B from Campus Law Centre, University of Delhi, where he had this distinction of securing first position in all 6 semesters. He was also awarded the gold medal for securing the highest marks in constitutional law. He had his stint in politics when he was the president of Campus Law Centre at Delhi University. He became a lawyer in 1977 and was designated as senior advocate of the Delhi High Court in 1997. He was appointed as the judge of Delhi High Court in 1999.